Hey everyone, and welcome back to round 4 of my Open Qualifiers event. This is the final round. Round 1 went pretty well, pretty smooth. Round 2, I lost, which was pretty bad. And round 3, I was very tactical, but I ended up winning the game. So right now I have 2 points out of 3, and we're going into round 4. A little bit more backstory. There are 4 people right now who have 2 points out of 3. It's pretty crazy. My opponent was a person with one and a half out of 3, but there's one person with 3 points, and if everything went perfectly, we were gonna end up in a four-way tie for first place if the perfect amount of things happened, which is pretty interesting. But either way, you're here for the chess. Let's get into the chess. My opponent starts off the game with e4, and I play my Caro Kann, of course, and my opponent decides to play f4. This line is playable. Everyone has played this. I play d5. The idea is basically that my opponent is probably either going to play e5 or d3. D3 is a little less common. E5 is a worse move. D3 is actually the best move. But let's say my opponent plays e5. I'll bring my bishop out. Plan is like this, and I have these h5 ideas. But all that's a moot point because my opponent actually ends up playing a mistake on move 3, and he takes my pawn, which gets a fat orange question mark because this is just bad. Now what my opponent has to deal with is that my opponent has barely any central presence. He has this square. He has this square, but what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bring my knight out, bring my other knight out, and I'm just gonna have a dominant clamp over the center, more space, and he's gonna have a weaker king since he played f4. Yeah, this already kind of gave me some confidence at the beginning of the game because I knew he messed up. So my opponent goes knight f3, and I quickly play knight c6 because I know it's the best move. It's very, very natural, and I didn't really think very hard here. My opponent goes bishop b5. I think for a little bit, make sure there's no real threats, and I play knight f6. My opponent goes knight e5, of course, simply pressuring my knight here. And I decide in this position that we play normal Caro Kann stuff, and a normal idea in the Caro Kann is to play queen b6. At the higher level engine gives this as the best move, basically saying that if bishop takes, I'll just take with the b pawn. This knight is kind of misplaced, and I'm going to be able to trade off for it in the future. I won't even need to trade off for it in the future because it won't actually be doing anything. Like I'll play g6 here, castle, and this knight really, it looks good, but it's not good. It would much rather be on this square or even on this square. This square would probably be the best square for the knight. But either way, my opponent goes queen e2. Pretty interesting move. I didn't really see it from afar, but yeah, it's a good move. I absolutely understand the idea. And here, I play the move a6, which is good. It gets the computer's blessing, but I'm kind of, I was thinking a little bit about this move. Eventually, I rejected this because of the move knight c3, and I'd probably have to take on c3. He'd take with either pawn, probably the d pawn is better, and he gets his bishop out. That's kind of why I didn't play knight e5. Knight e4. And I ended up playing the move a6. My opponent brings the bishop out, and here, as you can see from the arrow, I always do some analysis before the game. I should have played the move bishop d7. I should have played the move bishop d7 because what it does, it pressures the diagonal. If knight takes, I actually am doing pretty good because this knight is coming here. This bishop is misplaced, and if it trades for my knight, if it ever trades for my knight, it can take with either the queen or the b pawn, and I just should be better. Also, I should have realized that after this, if I can draw arrows, after this trade, one of my ideas is to put a bunch of pawns on light squares. Like, that's kind of what my setup is going to be. I'm going to play like this and bring my bishop out, and as you can see in that setup, all 7 of my pawns would be on light squares. So my light square bishop wouldn't be very good. I should have realized that, but I didn't. I ended up playing this move knight d7, which I thought was smart. Simply saying that my opponent, if he takes, I'll be getting my bishop out. I'll have a very strong lead in development, and I might even be able to long castle in some lines. Not right now, but maybe later. Probably short castle's safer, but long castles is interesting. Um, my opponent messes up. Knight c3 is the only move that gives any advantage. I don't really know why. I guess because it does. I don't know. And he takes on c6, which, I mean, makes sense that it's bad because after bc, this bishop is kind of locked away forever, and this knight now has the beautiful home on c5, which allows it to go everywhere. Maybe you can trade for the bishop at some point, maybe not. My opponent goes knight c3, developing a knight, but now it's the wrong time. Right now he's preventing the move c5, move knight c5, because now it would just drop a pawn. I would rather not drop a pawn. So I played g6. Idea being that simply get my bishop out, and after I do that, and after castles, I'll be able to play knight c5. I'll be okay. I am not too worried about this pawn because there's probably always tactics here. Like, I don't know, my bishop can come out, and then I'm gonna be like skewering him on this file. So it could be really bad for him to take that. And one more added bonus, my queen is really, really good here because it's exactly where it needs to be on this side of the board, making sure that these two pieces are restricted with these pawns. And what it also does is it defends this diagonal. Very important idea. Defending this diagonal and making sure that my opponent can't castle. So g6, my opponent goes bishop b3, and I thought this just allowed knight c5, but I decided to continue with my first plan of playing bishop g7. My opponent goes d3, and now I play the move knight c5. Of course, I'm putting my knight out. Everything seems very normal, and I know that I have an advantage because his pieces suck and mine are amazing. Now my bishop's gonna get out, and then I'm gonna castle, and then, I mean, this looks pretty good. Also, one other side note, if castles, then I can just take the bishop with a discovered check on the king. If bishop blocks, I can bring my knight back and block. Not there, actually. Bring my knight here and block. Because if I bring my knight there, then he has this fork on these two pieces. Don't allow that. My opponent goes bishop d2, though. And I thought that my idea here was to take the bishop. That's kind of my whole plan, to take the bishop. And I did something really stupid. I took the bishop. Taking the bishop is not really the idea anymore. The idea is now that my knight just is beautiful. Basically, what I'm arguing is that if my opponent wants to castle long, which she's planning on doing, it seems like, then I can take the bishop and open up a structure, and then maybe I have this idea of bringing my pawn up. But the way I did it by taking the bishop first, now he doesn't have to castle long. Now he can even keep his king in the middle. The best move here is castles. And in the game, the reason I didn't play this is because I just thought this dropped the pawn. It doesn't. It does not drop the pawn. The reason why it doesn't is very nice. I just played bishop g4. And the queen actually doesn't have any good squares. Like, let's say queen h4 makes sense. Rook not there. That would suck. Rook a8. And now the king has to stay in the open forever, and this is miserable. This is not okay. I mean, this is not what you want in a position. I can even take the knight here, like, after, like, bishop takes, let's say, yeah, bishop e2, and, I mean, my opponent is basically lost. If he goes here or here, I have discovered attacks with the knight. If he goes here, I have discovered attacks with the bishop. My opponent is dead. My opponent is dead lost. But then again, I didn't realize that. So instead of going for this line where I sack the pawn, I ended up taking the bishop because I thought it was reasonable. Now, AB is, of course, very reasonable. And I play this move h5, which isn't the best. Again, h5 gets an inaccuracy. The reason why I played this move was to play bishop g4. This is my idea because I didn't see a good square for my bishop. I didn't like my bishop going here because it just like looks into like a wall of granite. I didn't really like that. I wanted to castle, and I didn't see the idea that to sack the e7 pawn, so I didn't really know what to do, and that's why I played h4. But of course, he just has the move h3, and he completely just blocks my idea. Here I end up playing a very interesting move. Again, a very bad move, but I thought it was reasonable. I thought it was very flashy, this move. I played bishop e6, and the reason why I played this move, again, I really want to castle. I really want to castle my king. I thought the bishop was garbage on this square. I didn't see any point for it, and I thought here maybe my bishop had more prospects. Like I might be able to open up at some point and have some sacrifices on this pawn. I don't know. Normally this move is pretty bad because it blocks the e-pawn, but here I thought that maybe it had some point, because I'm not going to push my e-pawn anyway. Like there's no point to pushing my e-pawn, so I didn't care. And my opponent played this move, and it gives me back the advantage after the very natural move d4. But d4, I thought bishop f2, and here I just didn't see it. I just didn't see what I should play. Maybe I could have like moved my queen back, like this move, for example, to target this pawn. But then just like knight e4, like he can sack the pawn in many different lines. He's probably just fine here. I didn't like that. Even if I take this pawn, like the knight could probably come up here. Castle's actually with like a decent bit of threat because he's attacking this pawn now with the discovered attack. I didn't like this. I didn't like that I was like giving him some big attack. I didn't want to allow any of that garbage. So I did it, and I didn't play d4 at all. I ended up playing the move queen b7, which is a miss. Oh, and one more thing. If here in like knight a4, which makes sense, I can actually just play queen c7 and argue that this knight is garbage. It can come in here, but I mean, king's a bishop. So let's say the bishop moves back to this square. Now I have c5, and everything is pretty good. That would be nice. Either way, I played queen b7, not playing d4 because I didn't want to allow all that. And my opponent plays this interesting move, knight a4. Clearly intending to play this move, knight c5, and attack both my queen and my bishop. And here I had a nice idea. I played d4. This move doesn't work now because of queen b4, and I have the fork. It didn't work before. It did work before because the bishop was defending that square, but now it doesn't work because I have the fork, and that'd be terrible. So my opponent really has only one move, and that's bishop d2. Obviously, plays it pretty quickly. And now I thought that I'd play this move queen to b5, taking away the c5 square. The b6 square is under control. This square is under control. This square is guarded by his own pawn. So actually his knight has like no future prospects, and I thought I was like marginally better here. I thought I was just better, and my opponent makes a bad move. My opponent plays queen f3. The best move makes sense. The best move, I saw this. The best move was b4, and there's a couple ideas with this move. The first idea is to play knight c5. It doesn't work right now because I have a5. Second idea is to play this move and then just like slowly extract the knight from its bad square. I saw this move. I was scared of it. I saw it after I played my move queen b5. I was scared of it. I thought that he could play it. It's actually the only move that keeps white an advantage. The second best move is castles, and it's just equal. So queen f3, and I make a bad move. I make another bad decision. I should have played a5 and stopped b4. I don't know why I didn't. I saw the move b4, and I thought it was bad, but for some reason I just didn't want to play a5. So, or even c5. c5 makes sense. It makes less sense because it hangs the rook in the corner, but maybe. No, we're not even gonna care about that. But I play a bad move. I play bishop d5. And this is just a waste of tempo because his idea was also to play queen g3. Obviously, he wants to play queen g3 and put some pressure on my position. here I was a little scared of like g4 for some reason, but g4 obviously I just have the skewer of the rook in the corner, so I don't know what I was thinking. And yeah, bishop d5. My opponent goes queen g3. Is idea very simple. And now I should play a5. I should play a5. It's not the best move, but a5 stops b4. Like let's say b4, I just take. Now I'm gonna have an attack on the knight. Probably has to play b3. I'm just up a pawn here, so I don't really see what he's doing. Queen g3, and I end up doing something really idiotic. I end up playing bishop back to e6. The idea is interesting, but it's just a stupid move. The idea is that I want to go bishop f5 now, that he can't play this move g4 with tempo. But it's just, I just wasted a whole move moving my bishop twice. So what am I doing? Now castles, he misses an idea. a5 has to be played again, but for some reason I just blank on the move. I just don't play this, and I castle back because I thought I was decent. And now he finds b4. Now he finds b4. a5 doesn't work obviously because it just hangs a pawn. I can't take because the bishop defends, and I mean maybe have some pressure there, but why would I go into that? Now I set a little trap here. I set a little trap here with this move bishop f5, which is like the second engine move. It's actually the top engine move. Yeah, it's actually the top engine move, bishop f5. And the trap was that I knew that he wanted to play this, and I'd play a5 when he played that. I knew that I'd be better there. His best move is to go here and slowly extract the knight out like this. Very reasonable. But I read him like a book, and he ended up playing this move knight c5. And the reason why the bishop had to move there, the reason why the bishop move stopped this move is because the bishop move, if the bishop was here and he played knight c5, he could just take the bishop after the move a5, and that wouldn't be good. But now, after the move a5, only move by the way, after the move a5, I'm just significantly better. I'm significantly better, because he actually has to basically lose a pawn here. The best move was very interesting. The best move was queen e1. Little tough to see. It's a little tough to see. Now I just defend my pawn. I don't even take the pawn, and we get into some complications. I didn't see queen e1, and I thought he had to lose the pawn. He did too. He played c3. Now I took, takes, and instead of taking the bishop, which would be the best move, I took the pawn. Big mistake. What I should have done here, I should have taken the bishop. After takes, 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 I'm up a pawn, but now I'm up a pawn better because now he doesn't have this awkward liability here. And the way I did it after here, now I'm up a pawn still, but now we got a 2-on-2, and I don't have a passer. So that's why I should have taken the bishop. It would have been better that way, but here, I'm up a pawn. He defends his knight with his queen, keeping, and he has some weaknesses, but technically the engine thinks it's a draw. That's because this position is very drawish, even though I have a pawn. Like, if I just like trade everything, maybe I can save this position. Maybe I can win this because his knight is because his knight versus bishop endgame is probably beneficial to black, simply because I'm up a pawn and I bring the queen. But with the queen in the game, it's pretty drawish. Now I find a nice idea anyway. I play rook a8. He can't capture here. He can't capture here because simply rook fd8. He has to move his queen anywhere, and he ends up dropping the knight if he moves it here. But if he goes to the square that it kind of works, which is a7, I have simply rook a8. He can trade for 2 rooks, but I end up getting the knight with check, and I end up winning the game. Now, that didn't happen during the game. Obviously, he's not a numbskull, and he played this move d4 because I was also attacking his pawn, and he wanted to defend his pawn. I quickly played the move queen c4 here. Very simple. I'm putting more pressure on the pawn. I'm threatening to take it. I'm forcing his rook to come over and guard it. This is a pretty decent move, I think. He plays here, and I make a mistake. The only move, the only move is kind of crazy here. The only move is rook a8. I don't know. that move is pretty tricky. Obviously, if takes, I'm better, but like what he can probably just repeat moves like king h1, and I didn't really see the idea. I just didn't see the idea. I guess my queen infiltrates here. Maybe what about like instead of that? What if he goes like here, rook ac1? I guess queen d5. I don't really see the idea. I just don't understand this whole position. But that's the way to play for a win. I end up playing this move rook d5. Thought was very logical. Basically, one of the points of it is that I'm about to double up on this file. And I'm also defending the square from check. Not the biggest issue, but the double up is the main idea. Defending the square is the secondary idea. If we end up trading these pawns, I'm just winning in all endgames. I'm completely winning in all endgames because I'm simply just up a pawn, like I've said many times. But yeah, if we trade those pawns, I'm completely winning. Now, my opponent goes rook ac1. I play the best move. I play queen a2. Targeting his pawn. If he comes here, obviously I'll just take, and that should be simply winning because he can't attack my queen again since the bishop defends that square if I can draw arrows. Now, my opponent goes here, rook d2, obviously wanting to double up himself, and now I find an interesting move. I bring my queen out of danger and also defend my e-pawn by playing this move queen a7, which is the best move. Low-level engine says it isn't. High-level engine says it is. So I'm going to go with high-level engine, queen a7. Now, he has this move. Very interesting, but I didn't think this was good because this pawn is actually very well defended. I go here. If he attacks it again, like this pawn falls, for example, if he attacks it like this with his rook, I didn't really see the point. I didn't really see that that was any good because at the very least, I can play like this move. And if here, I can always just take, and that endgame should probably be winning for me. So, I go rook b8. My opponent goes back, realizing his mistake, but that just allows me to improve my position with the move rook b d8, and now I've doubled up, and my opponent hasn't spent a turn. In contrast, when my bishop moved to e6 earlier in the game, let's see if I can find that. Like, yeah, here, where I just repeated moves for some reason, like this, like, that made no sense. This also makes no sense. Basically what I'm arguing. Let's see if I can find the position. Yeah. And as you can see by my aggressive arrow clicking, my opponent immediately makes a bad move after me having had to put the pressure on him for like 20 moves. And my opponent plays this move. Also, one other small little detail. Here, I might be able to take this pawn, take the knight. No, I'm not able to. I'm not able to. Okay, yeah. Wait, no. Am I? Rook c5, takes. I guess I just lose my extra pawn. Yeah, okay. Maybe I would have gone for this. I am down in exchange, but it is a draw. I don't know. I have pressure. I might be able to go for that. My opponent plays g4 after some thought, and it's just a bad move because takes, and I have the only move bishop c8 that keeps an advantage. This move is the bishop going back to the home square, but what it does is it controls all 4 squares of the knight going forward, and now these pawns are too weak, and they're just liabilities. My opponent goes here, and now I have a very nice move. I'm also just attacking this pawn. The idea of this is basically saying that I can't play this, obviously, because after takes, he has this fork of my queen, my king, and my rook, and I'd be lost. Don't allow that. So I don't. I play this move queen c7, doing multiple things. Now, 3 of his pawns are under attack, and he cannot defend all of them. He cannot defend like any of his pawns. He plays this move f5. I just take on d5, on d4, and takes. He takes here. I give a check. And now M is in the evaluation. My opponent blocks with the queen. I give another check, forking his rook here. And the game swiftly ends after this move, rook d2. My opponent takes, and I take. And in this position, my opponent actually resigns the game. Because, I mean, what are you supposed to do? I'm simply going to win your rook, and then I will be winning everywhere. And there's no play anymore. So that was this game. Last game of the tournament, I ended up with 3 out of 4 points, a very nice result, exactly what I wanted. Of course, I would like 4 points, but exactly what I wanted. Now, what happened here? There's one small little story at the end of the game. What happened here is what I tell you at the beginning of the video. There was a chance that we could have gotten into a 4-way tie for first place if everything had gone correctly. If the guy with 3 had lost to the guy with 2, if I won my game, and if the people with 2 that were playing each other had a decisive game. And that's what happened. We actually ended up in a 4-way tie for first place, which was pretty incredible. I ended up getting 3rd in the tie breaks. I'm fine with that. And we split a decent portion of money between us, which is always nice. Always nice to get paid. So that was this game. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this instructive. All the above, you know the drill. Like, sub. Yeah. Good evening and good night.